because I've tried this. It doesn't work.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call the SMUD Board of Directors meeting of November 5th, 2015 to order. Please join me for the pledge to the flag.
The minutes of the October 15th meeting are approved with Directors Taylor, Bowie Thompson, Fishman, Tamayo, Slayton, and President Kurth voting yes, and Director Sharoma absent.
If not, I'd like to really go off the agenda for just a moment. We have an unusual treat of having a significant number of visitors tonight here. You are part of a group or from a school or what? All from Sac State? Oh, great. Well, welcome. We're glad to have you here. What you just heard was one of the reports from a committee meeting. We actually have several meetings a month, and the report there was the in-depth that we go to during the committee meetings. And at this time, we give our customers an opportunity to speak on items not on the agenda on which the board will take no action, and items not on the agenda but within our jurisdiction. At this time, I have 4 speaker slips. First up, I believe, is Theresa Sims. Okay, great. Mr. Rangel, you're from California Outdoors?
Yes, President Kurth, thank you. California Outdoors and actually California Hydro Reform Coalition. My name's Nathan Rangel. I'm a river outfitter up in El Dorado County. I was chuckling when I saw you had 201 days of cash flow. I'm thinking that folks in my business this time of year have about 2.1 days, but that's life. I want to thank you first for the work that your prior boards have done and your current board continues to do on the Upper American River Project. In particular, Director Slayton and at the time President Sharoma helped us reach with your staff an agreement that stands in very good stead for that project, for my community, and for your customers. It was a leadership and vision of the SMUD board that made that happen, and I want to thank you for that. I come before you because we are gravely concerned about some legislation that's before Congress right now, H.R. 8. In its original form, and I'm not going to bore you with the details. We gave you a letter that we sent to Minority Pelosi. H.R. 8 originally was, we think, dealt with some real issues that should be dealt with, but it has since been amended, and the amendments from our point of view place some real bad directives before Congress and before the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. We believe that this legislation places short-term gain over long-term wise planning, that it places greed before equitable and balanced resource management. We note that SMUD is hosting a National Hydropower Association conference next month. NHA has been strong supporters of this legislation, and I will tell you that there's no other way to say this. They've been bad players, and the way that they've dealt with that, they're proponents of that legislation. They've lied about our involvement in it and our willingness to work with members of the hydropower industry. We think this legislation goes against everything that SMUD stands for. And what I'm asking you to do is I'd love it if you folks would consider talking to your staff and asking them. What we'd like to see is that at the very least, SMUD come out and let folks know in NHA that you don't support this legislation. That's why we're here. Again, I want to thank you. Both Theresa and I were spending the day here today working with your staff that are part of the UARP implementation team. We work with them on an ongoing basis to put your license into place and to deal with all the mitigations that you got. And I just want to emphasize how grateful I personally am, members of my coalition are, for the hard work and the great vision that you provided. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for coming to let us know about this issue tonight. Theresa? Simsiman, I'm sorry. I've probably, from the American Whitewater.
You are not the first one.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
My name is Theresa Sims. I am with American Whitewater. And about 9 years ago, I came and stood before the board, very nervous as I am now, to talk about the relicensing of the UARP project. and probably the only person here that will remember is Director Slayton. I came as a stakeholder. I came as a ratepayer from Citrus Heights. And basically, I wanted SMUD to come back to the table. And thankfully, you did. Came back to the table, and we got the UARP relicensed. And 7 years later, in 2014, we got FERC to issue a new order for that license. As Nate said, we have a concern with H.R. 8. As a stakeholder, one of my main concerns is that it centralizes authority away from tribes, states, and local federal agencies. In other words, it centralizes authority over our rivers to an office in Washington, D.C., and takes it away from me as a stakeholder. That is a big concern to me, and I hope that is a concern to SMUD, as one of your core values is environmental leadership, and you have been taking that leadership value to heart. And I hope that you would direct your staff to take a look at this legislation. It is my hope that you would oppose it, but at the very least, take a good look at it. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you so much. I realize this hasn't been agendized, so we can't discuss it in any great detail. But
What I will commit to the board is that we'll, I am not familiar with the details of the legislation, but we'll go ahead and analyze it and provide the board with a memo through council.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, and thank you again for coming tonight. We very much appreciate it.
It's likely that first week is going to be a vote on the floor of Congress, so just mention that.
Okay, thanks. That's, what do they call that? The Doppler effect? The tendency of ideas to sound good when they come at you fast? Okay, thanks. Okay, Mr. Eric Windheim.
Thank you, Director Kurth. My name is Eric Windheim, the Director of Sacramento Smart Meter Awareness. And this letter was actually for Genevieve, but I see in her absence, can you see that she gets a copy of it? Because it pertains to the statement she made on August 20th at the board meeting. And this is due to the ongoing situation where people have been injured and are being injured by the biologically experimental smart meter. And Director Shiroma stated on the record that there's a disagreement, and I'm quoting her. SMUD uses best practices. We do not include smart meter injuries, what have you, and that was in reference to the safety report, because the causal connection is not there. Well, okay, that's her opinion. We brought in dozens and dozens of people here. Same thing's happening all across California. People are being injured by these smart meters, and they feel better when they get them off their house. So obviously it's an experiment. And this is happening all across the United States, all across Canada, all across the world, wherever these things are being installed, and it's the same basket and short list of symptoms that happens when they're put on, and people don't even know they were put on the house. So Director Shiroma went on and said, we rely on experts. What is it from the FCC, so forth? And it all comes down to, quote, best practices being used within the utility on a long-term use of the smart meter. Okay, that's the end of the quote. And that's exact right off the video. So I'm making a Public Records Act request for the, quote, list of experts at the FCC and so forth that SMUD relies on and the positions they hold at the FCC and so forth. I'd also like a copy of the, quote, best practices being used within the utility industry on a long-term use of smart meters, end quote, as she stated on the record on August 20th of 2015. And the clarification is experts are people at the FCC or so forth. So you have experts, those are people, they have names and they have positions. And point number 2 of Roman numeral 3 shows that SMUD claims to rely upon these experts, which are people, and I'm I'm sure that Director Shiroma can produce a list of their names and their positions, since all of you, or many of you, repeatedly refer to them as the people and experts that give you permission to install the smart meters. So I think it's only fair and accurate to ask for that. And on the back, I'd like to point out there's several California civil codes that say you can't deceive people or be liable. So I'd like a list of those experts and their names and where they work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Windheim. Next up, Mr. Mark Graham.
Good evening, directors and staff. My name is Mark Graham, and I live in Elk Grove. I have a few requests. I'm asking each director to read this packet that I placed in your hand on July 16th, scientific information on the peer-reviewed research on the health effects of wireless radiation. Also, I've asked you before, and I'm asking you again, please quantify the benefits to the consumers of the $360 million smart meter, smart grid program. You haven't done that. Also, put the transcript of the June 18 hearing up on the SMUD website. There's no good reason not to do that. And finally, I sent you an email about this on Monday. Show me on what pages of the general manager's report that was prepared for the rate increase is the information that's required by section 14403.3 of the California Public Utilities Code. Now, Director Slayton, these are not things that the FCC can do. These are not things that the California legislature can do. These are not things that the courts can do. But SMUD can do them, and that's why I'm asking you. Now, this message is addressed to the board and to the students in the room. SMUD is knowingly exposing all SMUD customers, including you, if you are a SMUD customer, to hazardous levels of microwave and radio frequency radiation. This is a growing public policy crisis, a public health crisis, and a fiasco. SMUD has been consistently misleading and deceptive on this issue. Here's my message, and it's backed up by scientific research. Wireless radiation is hazardous to your health. This includes cell phones, cell towers, Wi-Fi, and smart electric meters. You should not hold a cell phone next to your head, as everybody does, right? It can give you brain cancer. Better idea, get a Bluetooth or put it on speakerphone or talk on a landline. Ladies, you should not place your cell phone inside your bra. It can give you breast cancer. If you don't believe me, look it up. Gentlemen, wireless radiation causes DNA damage and damage to the mobility of sperm cells. Think about that when putting your cell phone in your pocket. Resources. There's a website. There are many websites on this, reliable ones. Look up www.sacsmartmeters.org. That's sacsmartmeters.org. You will find lots of peer-reviewed research there and information that backs this up. Look up the resolution from the California Medical Association, December 7th of last year, urging a reevaluation of the wireless exposure standards. Look up the Bioinitiative 2012. You can find that online, and look up the EMF Scientist International Appeal. My colleagues and I have been showing this information to the directors for months on end, and they apparently do not care, and they apparently have not read it, except for Director Taylor, who says that she reads our information, and I appreciate that, Director Taylor. You should not have a smart meter on your home. If you don't own a house, talk to your parents about it. SMUD will allow you to opt out, which is to get rid of your smart meter and get an analog electric meter if you live in a single-family home and pay their extortion fees. In the words of former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back.
Thank you. That is the last speaker slip that we have. I'd like to take a moment to remind everyone that the worries about smart meters are both unfounded and completely unnecessary. The so-called science used by some to incite these concerns cannot stand up to even mild examination, and it remains completely discredited. Again, any efforts, expenses, or investments made to avoid smart meters are entirely wasted and really serve only to enrich those seeking to profit from the misinformation. We live in a time of change. Change can be unnerving, especially when it comes quickly. We'll continue to offer some friendly advice. Giving in to hysteria, being seduced by the alarmists, or succumbing to the wiles of the predatory charlatans will not improve your lives. Thank you. As there is nothing further to come before the board, we're adjourned.
This evening's environmental tip is about chemical-free cleaning. You can look for safe, chemical-free ways to clean your home with vinegar, baking soda, club soda, and lemon juice. These products can be used to clean many surfaces in your home in an environmentally friendly way, as opposed to other chemicals.
I will, to tag off of Director Slayton's electric car comment, I did have the opportunity to ride in the new Tesla 85D with the auto drive. So nothing like being on the freeway at 70 miles an hour with hands-free driving. I think I have too many control issues to be comfortable with it at this point, but it was, but it was quite interesting and amazing technology.